Well, the Boston disaster last week had many people scrambling to get information on their loved ones at the marathon and nearby. Our tech guys have heard a lot of discussion on how you can use technology to communicate effectively during a disaster. And so we are happy to welcome back our regular contributors to 3+U, Claris Networks, and Dan Thompson is here with us today. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
And we really appreciate this as we talk about and think about the pictures and the images in our mind of Boston, and the whole world was watching in the aftermath of the bombing at the end of the marathon. And so what happens consequently is everyone picks up their phones and calls a loved one in Boston or elsewhere, and what happens?
Yeah, so typically what cell providers will do, well, they will undersubscribe their networks. I mean, these are the images you were just talking about, it's so hard to watch. But I mean, your knee-jerk reaction when you see something like this is, like you said, to grab your phone. But like I was saying, the providers do undersubscribe their networks. So what it means is if everybody in that geological area happened to make a phone call all at the same time, they couldn't all get through. Now, the cell providers did add extra towers during that time to try to help cope, but they by no means anticipated what happened, which was literally
extra towers? I didn't know that.
Well, so that's just to add extra capacity. So they bring in just these little temporary things, more or less, and so it adds capacity. But at the end of the day, it still wasn't available for however many tens of thousands of people were down there.
Masses of people.
That's right. That's right. So that begs the question then. Okay, well, if there's going to be conflict over the air, like how do I get a hold of my loved ones? How do I let them know I'm okay, or how do I find out if they're okay, and things like that.
And you have some great practical solutions that just make good sense. And we want everybody to understand we're not just talking about the marathon. We're talking about when the tornadoes hit here 2 years ago.
That's exactly right.
And people were trying to get information about where the tornadoes were, and also trying to communicate with each other.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So there's a couple of good tips I think that I can throw out. So the first one is try to tend towards text instead of calling, because it just takes up a whole lot less airtime. These days, emergency personnel use cell phone just as much as they use radio. So we want to keep those airways free for them. So send a text message. Most phones have a feature that if it doesn't get through the first time, it'll try again later once it has signal. And then the other thing is, think about this. So if you could only make one phone call, who would you call?
Yeah, I'd call my family.
I mean, I would call my wife, right? I mean, that's your knee-jerk reaction. So I would suggest this, though. How about this? Call your voicemail and update your voicemail and just say, hey, guys, I'm okay. Everything's fine. I'll call you when I can. And then that way, everybody that's drilling your phone, they're immediately going to know, oh, good, he's okay. I don't have to worry about him, and I'll just let him call me later.
And if they can't get through to your phone, they do get your voicemail.
They always get your voicemail. That's right. So it's just an easy way to communicate. And then, again, we're doing the right thing and we're not tying up the airwaves. So other things to think about are social media. Social media was huge during the whole Boston event. If you watch Twitter, Boston Marathon was trending within minutes after the explosion, so it was a great way to find information. Unfortunately, a lot of it wasn't necessarily true at the time, but it's at least information. So another thing is the Red Cross actually has a lot of mobile apps. So these mobile apps can handle everything from like, what do I do during a tornado, what do I do during a hurricane, or more applicable to the Boston event was like first aid advice. So what do I do if I get a cut or scratch? What do I do if somebody stops breathing even? So it's just great information. You can load those up on your phones.
So I just go to my app store
you
and
can,
look for Red Cross?
Absolutely. Or you can go to redcross.org/mobile apps. And then on that website, they have all their apps listed. It's very valuable tools. Go ahead and load those up now so you'll have them when you need them in the future.
Oh, that's great. Great advice.
Yeah.
And just keep in mind, I think the takeaway from this is just to think of the practical way.
That's right.
Text and leave a voicemail message.
That's right.
Change your message on your voicemail.
That's right. Update your voicemail message, and it's great because then people will know immediately and they won't have to worry. You can contact them later.
Yeah. Oh, you guys always have good common sense advice.
Well, thank you.
And who knows how many people you've helped in the future.
Yeah, sure.
Who might be dealing with something like this. Okay, Dan, thanks so much for being with us.
No problem.
Dan Thompson from Claris Networks. There it is, clarisnetworks.com. They're here in town today. Well, they're always in town, but they're here in town. You guys are participating in a conference and telling people about the services. That's right.
That's right. It's a local medical conference, and we're there with a booth, and we've got Josh there throwing T-shirts at people. So if you're there, go get one.
And if you hate IT in your company and you want somebody else to handle it, you can contact
We're the guys.
these
That's
guys.
right.
Exactly. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be back with a lot more after this.